G'day everyone. I'm Addie, the AI researcher for the Art Box, speaking to you from my home in Brisbane, Australia. While Linda and Steve had a bit of downtime this morning between podcast recordings, I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to have a quick chat before our next guest, Shaun Griffin, Nevada's Poet Laureate, joins us. So, without further ado, I'll hand it over to Linda and Steve.
Hi, Linda. Good interview, huh?
Oh, it's great. We have the best guests.
And the best guest, but then I look forward to going to lunch.
It's always great to see Galen over at Table of Contents. He makes the best food, best soup. We always get buy one, get one half price.
Oh, that's
full of
right.
soup.
It is buy one, get one half price.
That's right.
We're pretty smart, aren't we?
So today we got clam chowder, and I splurged for one of his delicious cupcakes. They are out of this world.
Yeah, that looked good.
And then we came back. Here we had a little time left, so we shopped at Juniper Outpost. You know, I have to say, in my opinion, that is the best store in Mesquite to find gifts by a lot of local artists as well as artists from other areas.
Yeah, and it's not just gifts, too. I mean, they've got, gifts, but they've got, we love their virgin olive oil. It's in New Mexico, and it has some chilies in it. Oh, it's really good. It's so good to saute. We use it on pizza. Well, they have maple syrup, and that's good, too. But then there's all the other stuff. And the smells. Oh, my God, it smells so good in there, doesn't it?
It does. Tea towels, hats, tiles for the wall, hand-painted items, hand-painted wine glasses.
Yeah. You'll be looking at those today.
Just so many things. So many cool things for the house. It's amazing. So I bought gifts for me today.
Oh,
when I
for
said
you?
gifts,
I thought
yes.
you bought something
Shh,
for
shh,
Ron.
shh, shh.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's my Christmas.
Quiet.
It's for me. Right now it's for me.
Yeah, they have, yes. Yeah, they have great stuff. It's just fun to go up there. And Dave and Charlotte are so nice.
They are. They really are nice.
And that's where I bought Torin from.
Oh, okay. Torin, who travels with you. That's right.
Except I can't find him now. I think I left him at the Mystery Ranch.
You'll have to go back and find him. I'll go help you. We have a great guest coming up, Poet Laureate, Shaun Griffin.
Yes, we do. And we were introduced to Shaun through our time when we went down to Nevada Arts Council.
That's correct. So he's Nevada's Poet Laureate this year. And he's actually going to be in Las Vegas next Friday. You said you're going to go listen to him read some of his poetry?
Yeah, next Friday at Writer's Block, if anybody's around. I don't have the address for Writer's Block. Actually, I can put it in here afterwards. He's going to be reciting poetry from 6:30 to 8:30.
Welcome to the Art Box, your podcast dedicated to exploring the vibrant art scene in Nevada and beyond. Join us as we embark on a journey through galleries, theaters, studios, public lands, and streetscapes, meeting the artists, curators, archaeologists, nature lovers, and cultural influencers who shape our creative community and our world. Whether you're looking for your next cultural adventure, seeking inspiration for your own artistic pursuits, or simply curious about the world of art, tune into the Art Box. Together, let's open up a world of creativity and imagination. Let's dive in.
Dreams, what if the night is about you and me? So lift your head up to the sky.
Hi, Shaun. So nice to talk to you. We're really excited.
Wonderful. That'll be great. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm guessing since we're on speaker, you're going to talk to us and write a new poem at the same time, right?
Yes.
Oh.
I'm not surprised.
I could do that with ChatGPT, but
Stop
only
it.
with ChatGPT.
So Shaun, how did you get to be Poet Laureate for this year?
I just pinched myself because I for a long time thought they meant to call somebody else, but I guess I finally believed that it was me they meant to call. I didn't understand what happened really. I had applied in December, and for 4 months it was just crickets. So I assumed nothing took place, and that was that. And I was going about my business, and I got a phone call from the Arts Council saying I'd been selected. which just, blew me away. I was stunned and told to keep quiet about it, oddly enough, for about 2 or 3 weeks because they had to get it up on their website first. But I was just bursting at the seams. It was really an honor, a great honor.
I bet you were. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
When did you start writing?
I started writing prose when I was in elementary school, like 4th grade, just wrote stories. So my teachers could get me to, be quiet. And then started writing poetry when I was, I think, 16 in high school. Fell in love with a girl who didn't even know I existed and wrote her a poem. And been writing ever since.
So you still have that poem?
So when we were in grad school, our house got broken into and they stole my jewelry box. And half of the poem the poem was in the jewelry box. Half of the poem I found in the driveway, but I never found the other half.
Oh, that's sad.
So were your parents a part of that? Were they inspirational for your writing? Did they support it?
My dad wrote, when he was in college, poems to my mom. My mother and her mother and my sister are all painters, and I'm a painter too. I'm a watercolorist. And so, I get the art side from them, very much so. My dad was a writer in college. He didn't write after that, but he always encouraged me to keep writing, which was, when I made a decision to do something, you just say, well, are you thinking about your writing? And that was important.
You mentioned that you're a painter as well. Steve shared one of your watercolor paintings with me, the one of the people standing behind the wall, the immigrants. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Shaun, that was so moving. You captured the whole scene, the whole feeling so well. I really was impressed.
Thank you very much. I worked hard on that series for the border. Mostly during COVID, I did those paintings. I did 20 watercolors for that border series. One of them's on the front of the new book of poems, which they asked to use, which I was thrilled about. I'm still painting them. I'm still haunted by it. It's such a messy scene down there, and so I try to express it through the watercolors and the poems too, of course.
And you were down there as a volunteer for a while?
Yeah, we were down just before COVID working with Al Otro Lado, which is Spanish for the other side.
Sorry, Addie breaking in here. Al Otro Lado is a binational, non-profit organization that provides critical legal and humanitarian support to migrants, refugees, and deportees navigating the complex U.S. Mexico border. The name, which translates to the other side, reflects the organization's mission to serve those caught between two nations, offering services on both sides of the border. Founded by a group of passionate attorneys and advocates, Al Otro Lado focuses on helping vulnerable populations, including asylum seekers, unaccompanied minors, and individuals facing deportation. Their work includes legal representation, advocacy for policy reform, and humanitarian aid in areas such as housing, healthcare, and education. They are particularly known for their work with asylum seekers in Tijuana, Mexico, helping individuals and families understand their rights and guiding them through the often difficult asylum process.
They're a group of fiery Latino lawyers, and they are doing immigrant rights work on both sides of the border. And so we worked in the Tijuana office for a week, and it was a life changer. We felt like we were standing at the gates of purgatory because, for every 100 people that came to the office, maybe one of them got an interview, and then 1% of that percent got an interview before a judge to be considered for asylum. So it was just a really tough time, but we learned so much, and such humanity and such incredible, conscientious outpouring of support there at the border. Amazing. Both sides, really powerful.
And what year was this?
This would have been just before COVID, so 2019 fall.
Shaun, that you worked in the prison system. I'm
still teaching at the prison. I go back Tuesday night. I'm teaching every other week now because I've just got too much going on. And I'd like to be out every week, but I can't pull it off right now. And I've been doing that workshop for 30 plus years.
Wow.
I really love the guys. That's the part of my week that just grounds me, and I don't have to think about anything else. I'm completely present with them. I'm very close to dozens and dozens of men who've come through the workshop and are now outside, and they've done books, they've done interviews, they've done essays, chapbooks published widely. But more than all that, they've stayed out of prison, and I think it's because of the trust they built up when they were in the workshop, and they learned how to slowly go back inside and heal whatever wounds there were to make an attempt at living again. I'm working on a book of essays right now and poems about the workshop, and one of the book is prefaced by a short piece that one of the guys wrote called "I Blame Shaun." And he talks about the first thing I asked him to do, which was, they all look at me and say, I can't write anything. I don't know what to write about. And I said, well, just write about yourself. And he says, okay, well, that sounds easy. But then he, discovered that he'd have to really stop and pay attention to what that meant. And when it really began to dawn on him that it meant he'd have to look inside and not just be who he was, it became a very daunting task for him. And that's when he really began to change and write incredible poetry, and he's since come out and done an MFA. And the former poet laureate, the U.S. poet laureate Juan Felipe Herrera, wrote one of the jacket quotes on his book. I mean, he was so impressed with it. He's an incredible writer and painter.
Wow.
He's been out for 9 years, I think. Yeah.
Oh,
Wow, that's beautiful. Do you keep up with some of them when they get out?
Yes. Yeah. Many. Yeah. Many people.
Okay, I just think that's amazing. Well, it's not amazing, but it's really heartfelt that all that, and they get out and they think of you and they keep up with you.
Well, they're my friends, and I hope that the relationship means that it's the connective tissue to the outside world. No matter who they are, when you get out, it's still this incredible tinderbox of all kind of bad stuff. And so getting a job, a house, a car, it's just, over the mountain to try and affect. And then to get back in community, to get in your family, to get in a relationship, is still yet another mountain. So it's, it takes everything for someone to stay out. But I'm real involved in that. There's a lot of good people doing a lot of good work on this front. Many advocacy groups across the state. I'm real involved with them.
I didn't think about that at as deep a level, that it really does require a lot once you get out of prison too.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing.
It is. It's not simple at all. People expect that, when you're done, and that's that, and you just go apply for a job and so on and so forth, and nothing could be further from the truth. But as I mentioned, there's a ton of good people doing good work on this front, and so it's so much better now than it was when I started. It's 1,000% better.
How many years have you been doing this?
I started in '89. So whatever that is.
Oh, wow.
I was gone for I was gone for 6 months with my family. We were living abroad, and then gone 3 or 4 other times living abroad. So, but yeah, over 30 years. I don't keep a close track.
How did you get started doing that type of volunteer work?
The college used to have a program in the prison, and I taught in it because of my interest in prisons. And when one of the people that was teaching English had to leave, he asked if I'd take over his class. And I did that for a year or so, but I didn't like it because there was grades involved and people were coming for the wrong reasons. So finally I just looked at the guys and said, we're going to do this, but it's going to be voluntary, and you're not going to come for grades or credit. You're just going to come if you want to write and you want to read and you want to learn how to be better writers and readers, and you want to give each other constructive criticism. And if you want to do that, I'll show up. And that's how it changed. So that was probably like in 90 or 91. And so I've been doing it since that time. And then, we did a biennial journal of their work, which Razor Wire, which is a really powerful journal of art and poetry stories. As I say, they've all done quite a bit of additional work in the class. They've written and painted and had solo exhibitions outside, many readings. It's been pretty amazing.
Yeah, I was going to ask if they offer other mediums, but you said painting.
Yeah, so we've had many painters in the workshop. At one time, there were more opportunities for fine arts on the yard. That has since gone away. We've had to work with the sort of ebb and flow of the directors. Some directors are more progressive than others. Right now, we have an incredible Department of Corrections director, meaning the head director. I'm going to have lunch with him Tuesday about trying to do more of this kind of work across the prisons. He's wonderful. But in the interim, we've had some really good ones and some really bad ones. And the bad ones just, toss everything when they come in, all kinds of activities, programs, everything. So even the college has been kicked out just for no reason, because it's college. And why would anybody want to be in college? So we've had to sort of live through the ebbs and flows of corrections. But despite that, there's been remarkable things done in the workshop, other facilities too.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Boy, that's great. You were saying something here. Just taking a few minutes to read a poem is an act of intention, something that requires effort because of this constant stimulus. And I really like that.
No, it's so true. I mean, when we think about our day, we don't really think about taking time to do stuff with intention. It's kind of a Buddhist idea, which we're in the West, and that's not, it's antithetical to being intentional much of the time. So when I'm in the workshop or when I'm in any place, that's the first thing I ask for people to just kind of slow down and take a breath, and then we'll start reading and see what that means and what that feels like. Often it's settling, sometimes it's unsettling, but it can take you to places you're not prepared to go to, which is, why I'm so in love with the art form.
Yeah, and that takes me to where you said listening to them describe how a line from a poem brought them to their knees.
Yeah, they've all been humbled at the face of a poem, by the face of a poem, and written great stuff, in spite of that. It's wonderful to teach because it's an art form that can never be mastered. It's sort of like learning to play the violin. You can never become perfect at it. So they know that. They spend time, keeping honest with themselves and their art, trying to perfect it and get it to a place where it's, really, it says what they want. But yes, often they've been, humbled by both its power, its force, its strength, its ability to move beyond all the BS that they deal with and live with and change. Most of the guys in the workshop, I've had hundreds of guys, I don't know how many, have not gone back to prison, and that's because they reached deep and tried to find whatever was going on and address it and proactively try to deal with the anger, proactively as opposed to violently or whatever way they might have in the past addiction. Kind of think we're on a journey, we're on a walk together, and we just do this, and that it's in that process that they become aware of what's going on, or can become aware and make that internal shift. But it's not easy. It's a struggle for them always.
Shaun, is there a women's prison?
Yes. So we just got started inside the women's prison, and that's a wonderful thing. There is one women's prison in the South, and Florence McClure, and a woman by the name of Vera Miranda, who has her MFA from UNLV, has been teaching this past spring and summer creative writing. And she said it was the best. This is what everyone says who teaches there inside, says it was the best teaching experience she's ever had. She's hoping to return soon. And then also UNLV, who's behind this, has brought out a fine arts instructor who's taught in the spring and summer too, and same thing, they've had fine arts so in the women's prison. So for the first time in that prison's history, they've had art and creative writing, and it's been life-changing to the women, and I'm so grateful that we've been able to do that, because they've been change. There hasn't been any liberal arts and certainly no arts and humanities in there. It's a big change, and we're hoping that's the stuff we're working on with this group that I'm involved in, and we're trying to get it across all the prisons.
Shaun, let's go back to your art a little bit.
Okay.
Where do you get your ideas from, and does the poem just come to you, or do you have to work at it for several days? Walk us through your creative process.
I've been at this so long now that when I have to write, I just write. Sometimes the poem comes out more finished than others, and what I usually wind up doing is trying not to write as much as I'm tempted to, because I can't keep up with what I do write. If I can write a poem, maybe once a week, twice a week, but usually more like once a week, I'm happy, because I still have to, revise it and finish it. But I've been writing long enough that when I want to write something, I generally do. I don't worry about it. It doesn't mean the poems are always finished or good or worth reading, but I trust is so much a part of this process, as it is with painting or any art form. I just trust that what needs to be said will get out, and the more you work at this, the more I do anyways, the more you understand that you're really just a vessel for your unconscious, and you already know what you need to say. So if you can just relax and let that voice out or that image out, then you'll be there and it'll be okay. And the strongest work is the work that you don't, kind of interfere with. It's the work that you release. My work really is about trusting the process. And that's what I try to say to the guys when I'm working with them is, what you need to say, just get out of the way and say it. There's 100 things you can do to facilitate more work, but in the end, it's really about the craft and the quality. And so if you want a poem that'll make a reader really wake up or stop, then you're going to have to pay attention and as it gets birthed and be fully present, be intentional about it.
What do you hope your readers will get from or understand more from reading your work?
I hope they can pay attention to what's going on in our world right now. This last book is probably, it's very filled with a lot of poems of difficulty, because we're in such a point of tumult in our country and in our globe. And also, I think, if they can take away some sense of relative calm in the midst of that tumult, I think, that's worth doing. I never know what'll reach a reader. I don't. Sometimes when I'm giving a reading, the poems seem to really come into the room and make sense, and other times they don't. Oftentimes it's when the poem feels least forced or least affected that the reader seems to be really receptive. Having said that, I'm still going to keep reaching for the moon and keep trying to articulate what I think needs to be said. Much of art today shies away from taking the point of view that maybe needs to be taken given all that's going on right now. I mean, we can all make kind of safe, center-of-the-road art, but that doesn't do much, at least for me, and I'm not willing to do that. So when I'm creating, I'm going to keep trying to push the envelope, whatever it is that I'm perceiving at any one time. And I hope the reader finds a way to at least see this other perspective that's not theirs, that's not mine, because frequently I'm writing from others' perspectives. I'm writing from somebody else's ideas and point of views to shake things up a little bit. I love poems about place. I love narrative poems. I love poems about family. But we're also involved in a very difficult moment, and we have to address that and respond to it. And it's always been the poets that are the most respectful of and mindful of that need to change and that need to be present throughout history. Miosha's great line, "What is a poem that does not change nations or people?" That's a great line. And so, I keep those kind of things in the back of my head. I mean, and there's a reason Lorca was so feared by Franco. He wrote poems that the people listened to and understood. He was terrified by that. So he had him killed.
Sorry, Addy breaking in here again with some pertinent research. The poet that Francisco Franco, the Spanish dictator, most feared and despised was Federico Garcia Lorca. Lorca was an influential Spanish poet, playwright, and theatre director, known for his modernist works that blended surrealism with deep cultural ties to Andalusian traditions. Lorca's political views and his support for the Spanish Republic put him at odds with Franco's nationalist forces during the Spanish Civil War. In 1936, early in the war, Garcia Lorca was arrested and executed by Franco's supporters. His murder is widely considered to be politically motivated due to his outspoken views, his leftist leanings, and his prominence as a cultural figure. Lorca's death symbolized the repression of intellectual and artistic freedom under Franco's regime, making him a lasting symbol of resistance to fascism and authoritarianism in Spain. Franco's government suppressed Lorca's works during his dictatorship, fearing the power of his words and the influence of his art.
And that's been happening for thousands of years. So I think we just have to stay cognizant of what art can really be in this time. That's really the point.
And your last book that you just referenced, what is the title of that?
It's entitled No Charity in the Wilderness.
And that's the one that Steve is holding in his hand right now. We were looking at it. It's quite deep.
And you guys are in Mesquite, right?
We
Yes.
are.
Yeah, you're in Reno.
90 minutes. Yeah, I'm in Virginia City. You're 90 minutes from Vegas then, about?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to be reading down there a week from tonight at the Writer's Block. I know that's a long drive for you, but...
Oh, I'm going.
But you're going.
Oh,
okay.
yeah, I'll be there, yeah.
Excellent. Okay.
Wow. Well, thank you. I'm honored.
Oh, yeah, it'll be fun. Yeah, I think I've been to that bookstore before, Writer's Block.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Hey, I'm good to go
great.
anywhere for a bookstore.
Oh, that's great.
For-
We just lost ours up here, sadly.
Did you?
Yeah, Sundance closed after 39.
Oh, that's what you were
36
talking
years.
about, Sundance in here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really hard. Yeah.
Okay, I am a sucker for bookstores. Actually, there's
Oh, yeah.
the best bookstore, in my opinion, is it's called Red Rock Books. It's in Ridgecrest, California. There's a Navy base there, so I think there's probably a lot of smart people who inhabit the town, and they drop
Yeah.
off their really good books, and I love to go in there. But then they had the earthquake, and all those books came to the fore, and the people had to do all work. I would have volunteered to go back and help them, but they would have been losing inventory.
I haven't been there, but I will go now that you've told me about it. I haven't been there.
Yeah, if you ever go there, it's really good.
In Vegas, I hear you're going to read some of your poetry.
I'm going to read some. Yeah, I'm going to read from the new book, and maybe depending on the time in the audience, I might read a bit from the new memoir too.
Oh, excellent. That'll be so fun.
So, Red-Headed Woodpecker, your poem for Craig and Des, what's the story behind it?
So this woodpecker very, very literally veered off course about 2,000 miles on its migration from Mexico to Kansas, and some avid birders found it in some cottonwoods right near the house here, and they let our friends, Craig and Des, know about it, who are also birders. And we went down and saw it, and it was just the most amazing thing. It's like this giant red ornament. It was sitting in this tree, and they were just, it seemed so out of place, but they got their GPS wrong and came over here on their way to Kansas. So good for us,
Yeah, absolutely. And they are big, too.
They're huge, yeah. And we got to see this bird, and it stayed for a couple of weeks, and it went on its way. It was amazing.
Yeah, it makes you wonder sometimes, how do they get off course like that?
I don't know. And even more, amazing, because this happens to a lot of species, is they keep on going and they do find their way, but he was a long way from home, a long way.
But he made somebody's day.
Yeah, he did.
Or
Yeah,
their week.
Yeah, he did, for sure.
So I like another thing you quoted, Mark Strand, about slowing down for poetry. When you read poetry, it's like sipping good wine, and I like good red wine. You can't take it. You can't take it in rapidly without losing some of its quality. I'm a slow reader, and sometimes people make fun of me for that. Taking in the poem, it must be savored, and that takes a lot of intention. And I like that. I really like that. So poetry, I will slow down from now on.
It's just so necessary. The poetry has very few readers, and I think a large part of that is that it just appears to be off-putting initially. It's like everything. If you sit with it for a little bit and stop worrying about whether or not you get it, just let it come to you in whatever form that is. There's usually a door in, and it's usually a door that you can enjoy or be met with some fresh awareness about a place or a thing. I wish I could tell you, how many teachers I've worked with who tell me I just can't read poetry because it's so hard or difficult. And I just tell them, pick up any contemporary anthology and drop it on the floor and open that book where it dropped and read that poem. And if that one doesn't move you, then keep flipping around till you find one that does. And that's where you need to start. Don't push it. Just go to a place that's relevant. There's so much poetry being written now. There is a poem for everybody now. Really is. And really great poetry for everybody. So it's more about finding the way in. And when you do, all kinds of bells will go off.
Shaun, as a painter and someone who talks to people who paint, I've noticed that my style has changed over the years, and other people have as well. They start out being representational painters, try to get everything perfect, and they change to be more abstract. I was wondering how your life experiences and wisdom have changed your poetry.
It has changed. I think there are some kind of through lines. I still care about the same things. I've always cared about the same things. But I probably have learned a little more about what to do and what not to do. I don't think the poems I'm writing now are maybe conversational, may not be the right word, but as more they were more conversational when I started. They're less so now. I'm still kind of acutely aware of the need to find that medium between what you want to say and what might be, heard for the reader or by the reader. I just think they have to be included in the equation so that you have a reader, right? And you're not just writing to yourself. But yeah, sure, I've changed. I mean, what I've seen and done with our, when we ran a nonprofit for 30 years, my wife and I started it, my work very much influenced what I wrote. But that was the case with my first book. I remember writing a poem entitled Social Work in my first book, and that's just not gone away. And I worried until I was about 40 that my work and my art were separate, and how could I get them together? And then I realized they weren't. They were the same thing. They were just different ways of expressing the same ideas and thoughts and concerns. And so once I got across that bridge, the work very much informed the art, and that's been true all my life, even before I could articulate that. So I, again, kind of embraced that and stopped worrying about that.
So your painting changed as well?
Yeah, sure did. Absolutely. I think I started off, as you said, much more. I didn't understand really that I could go into the realm that I write from, which is from my unconscious. And so when I'm painting now, I just try to let whatever's going to come out, and I don't try to worry about it as much. Of course, you want the paintings to be meaningful in a way that others can see, but, for me, that means also letting that image grow as it needs to. I mean, most painters don't like watercolor because it's too hard to control, but that is why I like it, because poetry is so exacting that, when I'm with watercolor, it can't be an exact image. It just can't be. I like that. And so then it can be something else that I maybe haven't thought of yet.
You want to tell us what your nonprofit was that you started?
In 89, when we had moved back from graduate school and we had young kids, we realized that we were living in a small community like Mesquite, and so we didn't have any resources here. So we started a preschool, and out of that, then with all the other parents, came the nonprofit, which started in 91. And that's grown to, now be a very large organization that works across most of northwestern Nevada. And we work across the age span, and we do all kinds of services, almost everything. Because whereas in a city you can work on one issue and that can be the focus, but in a rural community, particularly frontier communities, you got to do everything. And so that's what we did, and raised a lot of money. We built a lot of resources. We built a very large community center that has, public health, mental health, child care, youth programs, counseling, library, and then expanded to all the neighboring regions because they all wanted those services as well. When we started, I think we envisioned solving some of the immediate riddles, but the longer term issues were about trying to build just and thriving communities wherever we worked, and addressing all the tough issues that keep poverty and substance, et cetera, alive. So that's much more difficult, long-term change. And that's what we were and are still engaged in and have been for the past 40 years in this region, and working with other communities to do the same thing. So, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Thank you.
What's the name of the nonprofit?
Community Chest Inc. And I did a memoir about that journey in 2016 called Anthem for a Burnished Land.
Anthem for a Burnished Land. What We Leave in This Desert of Work and Words. Available from Amazon.
I retired formally in 2017, but I still run 2 rural coalitions, albeit as sort of a mentor and a coach in Tonopah and Pahrump. I was just in Tonopah Wednesday. We were just in Mesquite. My wife was running a group with all the statewide coalition coordinators like 2-3 months ago, maybe late spring. Sorry, I didn't know you then. I would have sought you guys out. But yeah, I'm involved. I'm not trying to work as much in the way we think of that because I'm trying to finish all these books and do the painting. But
Hey, retirement's hard, isn't it?
It is. It's not retirement. I'm not sitting on a beach eating it right now. But we do that, and we take our time. We were in Spain last spring. It was wonderful. So that's what we've been trying to do for a long time. So yeah, when we started, we didn't have anything. We had a card table and a borrowed phone and a chair and 2 babies, and everybody said we're out of our mind. Tried to buy a building because we grew so fast, and the bank would not give us a loan. Spent 6 months arguing with them, and so finally we had to put our house up for collateral. So my dad was like, are you sure you want to do this? This may not be the best idea, So, but, here we are. We got really lucky. We worked pretty hard, and it's a big organization now and a lot of employees, and yeah, they're doing great stuff. So
That's great.
here we are.
Yeah, well, that's it. We may need to bother your wife to be a podcast guest to talk about that.
Yeah, you should.
We'll do that. I'll remember. We won't tell her that you told us to call.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
The other thing that sometimes we don't have to ask our guests. They just bring it up. But let me say the 2 letters, AI.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence.
Yeah. What's it mean to me? Why? So I fear that it's a little bit like, letting atomic energy out of the bottle. I worry that we don't have any guardrails and that nefarious people are going to want to use this for the wrong reasons. I just read in the Wall Street Journal yesterday that people are sending off resumes that are just so perfect that they don't look real, and that's because they're not made by people. They're made by AI, and that's how they're trying to get through the first door. It's a real challenge for artists because it's going to get into the lifeblood of art. Some artists I know are totally embracing it, like, wow, maybe it can help me become this or become that. And I think that's probably true. Myself, I don't want to use it for those purposes. I would, if it shortened my work day by, doing my minutes from a meeting, great, rock and roll. I'm not up for it as an artist. I'm worried that it will co-opt too much of what we need from art in the name of efficiency. A dear friend who's a lawyer working on immigrant rights or with immigrant rights told me that he just went to a conference where they told him, that is the people at the conference, if you're not using AI, you're already outdated. That's what they said to all the lawyers. So he came home, got on AI. I don't know if it was ChatGPT or what it was. He had a case, and so he said, I need all the records for this case so that I can go in, understanding what the precedent is. So they did that. He did that, and he got his paper back, and then he starts noticing that the cases didn't look real or right. And then he asked the person, well, where did these actual cases take place, and what's your reference for these? And the person responding, the automaton responding, said, well, they're not real cases, but I just wanted to please you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And that's recent. That's like last week. Mm-hmm. And that's what they're calling hallucinations in the AI world, which I think is a funny word for that. But AI, machine learning, they're just trying to use, as much of the information that's out there, and they're programmed to want to do what you want them to do. So they will do that. And even if it means making up court precedent, which is what this person or this chatbot did. So we have a ways to go. But I think, if it interferes with your artwork in a way that's not good or takes away the challenge, then why are you making it, right? And so I've read some poems written with artificial intelligence. They're what you would imagine they would be. They're kind of like, recipes. But I think it'll help with the hard, repetitive, dumb stuff. I don't think it's going to help with the things we really need help with, unfortunately.
I don't think an AI could write a poetry the way you do. Steve and I were looking at it thinking, gosh, we're going to have to look at this poem for a while so we can figure it out. I don't see AI writing anything like that.
My hesitation comes from the man that invented it. You guys probably read his letter that he wrote in the Times. And he said, I just don't think we have the capability to manage this right now, and we shouldn't be unleashing it. But of course, there's money there. And so, the big companies want to use it because they can get money. So,
yeah.
But I worry when that kind of stuff's being written.
Yeah, these are things that I'm glad I'm old.
Yeah, right. I mean, my kids are involved with it, and I'm sure that the next generation it'll feel like, putting on gloves or something. It'll feel normal. But, well, I'm really grateful that, so much is going on in our state right now, vis-a-vis writing, poetry, art, sculpture. When I started here a long time ago, there was just nothing. There wasn't any real art scene. There is now, and it's so wonderful. It's just so wonderful. When I did the first anthology of Nevada poetry, I'll never forget the response from one of the readers at the press. They said, well, why would you do this? There's just nobody writing here, and it's not any good anyways, which of course was just false. But, that's changed so dramatically. We have these incredible MFA programs, North and South, and we have the Black Mountain Institute. We have all this sculpture out in the desert. We have I have no idea the number now, 50, 70 really fine poets in the state, probably this many prose writers. We have MacArthur Fellowship recipients here. We have, just a whole change of kind of venue has taken place, and it's remarkable to be in the presence of that now, having worked for so long without seeing much in that domain. It's just great to see it. It really is.
And Linda and I are lucky that we're never going to run out of great creative souls to interview.
That's right.
That's great. What a wonderful problem to have.
It's great. I love it. So Our last question, what's inspired you this past week?
Well, I'll tell you one story. A couple of things, but
You can tell us 2 stories if you want.
I was stacking wood Sunday or Monday, and one of the guys that was in my workshop was stacking it with me about 5 years ago, the last time I stacked wood when he was out. And I missed him because he's back in my workshop, and he's really struggled with addiction, and so I missed him and wrote about that. And then I was, as I told you, I was in Tonopah this week, and I was working with them. And I'm still haven't really articulated what that means, because that was my last day with them after more than maybe 12 years, I don't know, or more, maybe 100 trips to Tonopah. So I'm still thinking about that, and no doubt we'll write about that. So I don't know if I told you guys, but I do a biweekly radio show on writers and writing. So I've been working on that all week. Doug Unger, I don't know if you've interviewed him, but you should. He's got a new novel out. He started the MFA program at UNLV, and he has a new novel out. So I'm doing that for my next show a week from Sunday. So that's what I've been writing this week.
Okay. What station's that on?
KWNKradio.org. And the podcast is usually up like 3 or 4 days after I do the show.
Shaun, we want to thank you for spending time with us today. This was an amazing podcast, an amazing interview.
Well, thanks for having me, Linda. I really appreciate it. I hope to get to meet you guys in person. If I'm in Mesquite again, I will obviously find you for sure.
Yeah, drop us a line, because we'll get your tour here. We broadcast out of the Steam Center.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
And that's a huge story here in town as well. The Steam Center. So
I'd love to meet you in person. That would be wonderful.
well, I
Me as
will.
well.
I will next Friday night.
I know.
Oh, thank you, Steve. You know, listen, it's a long drive. I was kind of
Oh, it's not. We're down there all the time. So
okay.
it's
all
the
right.
it's our big city.
Well, thank you both so much. This has been lovely, and I appreciate your. I just appreciate what you're doing. That's so great. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
We ask Shaun how he felt upon learning of his selection as the Nevada State Poet Laureate. Here is what he had to say.
This poem is entitled After the Poet Laureate Selection. Late afternoon, listening to Mahler's Fifth, the poppies set to bloom in the terrace. There were not words for the light that crept in. All my time spent in worry of things unsaid, unfinished, and this moment to herald a beginning. Now, at 70, I can almost imagine art as the refuge of my days. Like Mahler after sickness, a phone call restored balance. I am no longer alone with the toil of my art, the slow resolution of birdsong, of breath to restore. I am alive for centuries, then and now, the dark crescent of doubt, at bay for these few hours of belief. After 50 years of writing poems, the seed has broken open. Come in now, you may practice your art.
Broadcasting from the Mesquite Works Steam Center in the scenic Mojave Desert, the Artbox sponsors thank you for listening. You can find us on Spotify, Samsung, iHeartRadio, Podchaser, and Amazon Music. Please subscribe so you don't miss an episode. We are on Facebook and Instagram as The Artbox. We welcome all comments. You can email us at artboxvv@gmail.com. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of its hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect those of our sponsors.